I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Friday, March the 17th, brought to you in part by Talieve by Norbrook. Unbreaking news, Talieve is a ready-to-use, single-shot, low-volume dose that is rapidly absorbed and delivers proven efficacy against a wide range of cattle diseases, exclusively in plastic bottles, so you don't have to worry about breaking them. For more information, go to norbrook.com. Beef on dairy, and I haven't talked about that a whole lot, and what I'm talking about is a lot of different outfits, and they call them calf ranches. Not sure where that name really come from, but they are keeping these half Holstein for the most part. There is some Jersey also, but half dairy and mostly half Angus calves. The way that's happening is the outfit that has the contract to get those calves, they will give the semen to the dairy farmers, which for the most part they don't need to keep those heifers back, and they sure don't want the bulls, because they're usually getting those through some kind of a service. But they will deliver the semen. They'll breed those dairy cows with really top quality Angus bulls, and they're having some pretty darn good calves there, and then they've got the contract to take those calves. Well, our top Angus bulls, a lot of our production sales, and we do a ton of production sales here at DV Auction, a lot of those top bulls are going to these calf ranches here. And if they can get good enough Angus bulls, they can overshadow a lot of that dairy on those calves that they pull back, and then they've got something that they can sell. And I said many times in the past, I think you'll have to eventually go to the zoo to see a Holstein steer. Why would you want one anymore when you can have a half and half? And if you get really high quality on the sire side, then you can overshadow that and have something that's really top quality. And then the advantage to those calves is that they're easy to put into a program. So you take them away right after birth there, so that the cows will milk. Well, you've already got it weaned. Once you get it raised, you don't have to worry about going through the weaning process. So in many cases, you won't have to use any antibiotics, so you can keep them all natural. You've got your hands on them. It's easy enough to kind of regulate their ration. If you want them in HTC, just don't implant them. And then those cattle are really easy grading, because, and I'm talking about quality grade, Prime Choice Select, like that. They grade a high percentage prime because they are lighter muscled, and that comes from the dairy side. But they're predominantly black. I will say that if you had a load of beef on dairy half-bloods and you fed them the same way as you did a load of purebred Angus, and you sent them in, more of the half-bloods would qualify for CAB than the purebred Angus, because they're going to make the grade. And so a lot of these plants are starting to like them. Now your regular Holstein carcasses that they used to have, and they still do up in Green Bay, Wisconsin, Green Bay dressed beef, and back when I first started with USDA, my first place to train after Amarillo, Texas was St. Paul, Minnesota, South St. Paul Stockyards, and we used to get a lot of those big dairy steers in there, and they'd weigh 1,700 pounds before they got close to being done. But that was a different type of a product. It really wasn't your regular beef steer and heifer product. This is, even though they're half-bloods, but your plants are liking them. That they're actually, those carcasses are selling at a premium a lot of the time, because a lot of times they're selling on the grid or on some kind of a carcass merit deal there, and you can buy them at a discount as feeders. Some of those calf ranches actually sell those as feeders. Superior Video, they offer them many times and on their regular sales, and they sell about $20 back comparatively. And then you can buy them out front if you need to. But The feed conversion's not going to be as good as your predominantly beef cattle, but it's not that much different, and we're starting to see that work a lot more, and these big calf ranchers are having a lot of success with that. The reason that I'm telling you so much about your beef on dairy is the highest fat cattle that we had sell this week sold on the Fed Cattle Exchange. They were half-blood beef on dairies. They bring 165, which would be steady with last week, but they're the only cattle that brought 165 in Texas or Kansas. They did it in competitive bidding on the Fed Cattle Exchange, and I'll give you the complete lowdown on your fat cattle market like I always do here later in the report. Some other news I saw: Australia is posting some of the biggest fed cattle losses that they've ever seen. And it's due to the extremely high feeder cattle prices that they paid late last year. And you guys want to be thinking about that going towards the future. Granted, I believe that you got a good 2 years, maybe 2.5 years of this good market for you cattle feeders. But there's a limit to what you can pay for these feeder cattle and expect them to make any money. Australia is finding that out. The extremely high prices of feeder cattle that they paid late last year in Australia were due to the extreme drought conditions that they had a couple of 3 years ago. Back in 2019, they were going through some of the worst drought conditions that Australia had ever seen. They had thinned that cow herd down, similar to the way we have right now, and then they got really short on supplies, and then the market went up like crazy. Well, your beef price did not hold up for them. They did not sell well enough, and they are losing in Australian currency up to $1,000 per head Australian, which would be more than $650 a head US. Ouch. You guys need to be thinking about that. That's why you've always got to keep yourself, hedged up, whether you're doing it through the futures market or whether you're doing it with one of the USDA livestock policies that I recommend. You need to be looking at that. Cattle on feed reports coming out here on Friday. You need to be thinking about these numbers at 2 o'clock Central. Your on-feed inventories for March the 1st, they've got those pegged at 95.6. If it comes in close to that or lower, it's going to be bullish. Your placements, they've got those cranked all the way down to 93.9% of a year ago. If we saw lighter than that, I mean, that would sure be bullish. But if we can keep it in there pretty tight to that, I think we'll be okay. And then marketings of fed cattle through February, I've got pegged at 95.8, and I think it could maybe come in a little better than that. But let's talk about your futures market on Thursday. April live cattle futures are up 80 cents at 162.35. June up 30 cents at 156.87. Your back months were from down 2 cents on the farthest out traded to up as much as 47 cents. So we saw a little bounce in your futures, and all of your ag futures saw a little bounce on Thursday. March feeder cattle were up $1.30. That was impressive at 189.50. April up $1.90 at 195.15. Kind of in preparation for this cattle on feed report. I think it kind of snuck up on a lot of your commodity traders, and they're looking at the analysts' expectations, and they're expecting it to be pretty bullish. Your back months on feeder cattle were up 147 to up 175. May corn futures up 6 1/4 cents a bushel at 632 3/4. December new crop up 1.5 cents at 558 1/2. May beans up 2 1/4 cents at 1491 1/2. Fat cattle market, we didn't see a whole lot more trade on Thursday. Bulk of the trade was on Wednesday. Bulk of the trade was $1 lower on a live basis, and mostly $2 lower on a dress basis. Iowa sold another 1,700 head confirmed on Thursday, and just 17,400 head for the week. They've got more work to do here. They're going to have more sales in Iowa and they may get a little bump from what I was telling you about earlier on the Fed Cattle Exchange. But live sales confirmed on Thursday in Iowa at 164 and 165. Dress sales 263 to 265. Nebraska just had a couple loads confirmed on Thursday. 21,500 head for the week. Not sure how much more we'll see there. The only price we saw was 263 dressed in Nebraska. Kansas only 700 head, 9,200 head for the week, all at 164 for the most part, and that's a buck lower. Texas 400 head on Thursday confirmed, and about 5,000 head for the week. 164 is your predominant price in Texas. But like I said, the Fed Cattle Exchange, which is an online auction program there that we have with the Central Stockyards puts out, they sold about 500 head from Texas on Thursday. They ranged 164 to 164 and a quarter, so that's a tick better than what we saw direct basis. And then had that one pen of beef on dairy, and they happen to be heifers at 165. How would you attain that on a direct basis? You could not. You have to have competition. And I was talking with the guys there at Central Stockyards, and they said good competition from majors and regional packers there. So, I don't know how many more times I can say it or why people don't understand it. You've got to have competition, negotiation in your fed cattle sales, in all classes of cattle sales, to achieve the top price. And we saw that with help from Fed Cattle Exchange on Thursday. Box beef cutout values were lower, but not a whole lot lower. Choice cuts were down 32 cents at $283.95 on Thursday afternoon. Selects down 87 cents at $271.76. Your slaughter came in, and actual slaughter also came in on Thursday, but through the first 4 days of the week, 501,000 head harvested. That's down 1,000 from last week, up 8,000 from the same week a year ago. But listen to this bullish information here. Your actual slaughter information for the week ending March the 4th came back with your average dressed steer carcass weight at 899 pounds. That's so under 900 pounds now. That's 3 pounds lighter than the previous report, 20 pounds lighter than the same report a year ago. I was reading the beef read with Cassie Fish there, put out by Cooperative Beef Producers, and I saw some information on there I thought I'd share with you. On a typical steer and heifer slaughter week of about 480,000 here of late, what we've been doing, that 20 pounds lighter on the carcass results in 9.6 million less pounds of beef, and or 10,000 head per week less. That's significant, very, very significant. They can keep the similar type slaughter, what we've been seeing here of late, because the prices are getting up there. They're not filling all of their needs, and they've likely sold that. And we're going to get to the time of the year where beef is most demanded here, whenever we get close to get into spring, get into some warmer months, and people want to get outside and throw steaks on their grill, and the demand's going to be up for them. They've got a lot of beef contracted for that, coinciding with that time of year. And if they're not slaughtering more cattle at these lighter weights, they're not keeping up with the supplies that they need. Talk about what else is going on. Performance Livestock Analytics. They've got software there. You can manage your feedlot operations anytime, anywhere with Performance Beef. For more information, go to performancelivestockanalytics.com. Talk about your feeder cattle market, your real-time index on DV auction. Late in the day on Thursday, sitting at 189.40. That's down 85 cents. So it's been down every day this week. It's a 7-day moving average. Been going down every day this week. still sitting there, but 189.5 or so. It's a good market for cash steers there up through your middle 12 states. Talk about your big sales on Thursday. Farmers and Ranchers Livestock in Salina, Kansas sold 5,100 head, and the steers were mostly steady to spots $2 lower. Now heifers were steady to $2 higher. They did note that the stocker types were not as active as they were last week. And remember, last week they just launched those stocker weights, those old croppers, the calf weight yearlings with a lot of condition that people want to get their hands on to turn out on grass here within less than a month now. They were just wild last week, especially in that part of the country in Kansas. So they weren't quite as wild, but I saw a stick-out sale that I was impressed with out of Salina. Was 60 head of steers, weighed 812 pounds at 191.25. Thought that was pretty good. How about Winter Livestock in Pratt, Kansas? 2,600 head there. And I figured out where the weakest spot in the weak market reporting in Kansas is. It's in the southern sales down there. And you guys get onto the USDA website and read that, or it's illegible. The trend is illegible. And I feel sorry for anybody that does radio broadcasts and wants to give that market out of Pratt, Kansas, that everybody in that area really like to hear, because there's no way you can make heads or tails out of that trend that they put on there. And I don't know who they think they're helping by making a different direction and a different trend for about every 100-pound weight group. It's just ridiculous. It's due to a lack of training. But I did see a stick-out deal that I liked out of Pratt. It was 70 head of steers, weighed 781 at 192. I'm going to give you a promises made, promises kept. I try not to put out expectations of the market any more than I have to. Sometimes I can't help it. Normally I just give you kind of an update on the things that affect the markets and how I think they'll affect them in what direction. But once in a while I will give you some guesstimates on what I think the market's going to do. A few months back I told you guys these cows are going to be extremely short, and I told you guys that cows would be bringing $1.25 or maybe even $1.30, and slaughter bulls would be bringing $1.50. And a lot of people thought, well, that's not really that big of a guess to put out there, an estimate. Some people thought I was crazy, they would never get there. Well, it's gotten there. Paris Stockyards in Paris, Kentucky, heard from management there on Thursday night. They sold a big Gelbvieh bull, heavy muscle bull, for $1.50 a pound going to slaughter. The top cow at the time that I needed to get that information to do this report was $1.25. There you go. Promises made, promises kept. I get a lot of flack, especially from commodity types, because they think that I'm being irresponsible here with my bullishness about this market, saying, well, people are listening to you and you're leading them astray by telling you how good it's going to be. I've been telling you how good it's going to be for the last 6 months while it's been getting good, and it's going to get better, and it's going to stay good for at least 2 years, and I think for 2.5 years probably. It's going to be a little bit longer. Normally on these cyclical deals that we see, by the time it starts really getting good, you better start hanging on to your Wranglers, because it's gonna fall out from under you. But due to the extremely tight numbers that we've got of cows, and no more than we've kept back as replacements, there's not any behind them. We're so short of forage, feeds high and everything. It's going to prolong this good market for those of you that were able to stay in. And I tell you what, that's a pretty darn good salvage value on some weigh-ups there. $1.50 on a big bull and $1.25 on cows. Wow. And thank you to Paris Stockyards in Paris, Kentucky, for sharing that information with me in a timely manner. Your Zoetta stick-out feeder sale of the day is Dickinson, North Dakota, Stockman's Livestock Exchange. Those guys do so good, and they're so far up north there. 3,600 head. When I pulled this market report, I think they were still selling, so probably going to have more than that. But look at their best tested weights here. On your steers, 437 head of 5-weight steer calves, average 552 pounds with a weighted average price of $244.32. 530 head of 6-weight steer calves, average 658, weighted average price on them $213.39. 308 head of 7-weight steers, average 740, weighted average price on those $198.42. 564 head of 8-weight steers in Dickinson, North Dakota, averaged $824 with a weighted average price of $183.26. On the heifers, they are keeping heifers back there. You see noticeably lighter offerings of heifers there compared to the steers. 537 head of 6-weight heifers, average 643, weighted average price on those $195.05. Give you a couple individual quotes that I thought were interesting. How about Mitchell Livestock Marketing in Mitchell, South Dakota? 2,800 head there. Bad winter storm coming through. Curbed receipts there. Just yet another winter storm, and they have just, I mean, they are just, been punched so many times. Just every week, every other week, all winter long. Going to have a lot of moisture to get started in the spring if it ever warms up, but they are storm weary up in South Dakota, guys. But still, 80 head, 991 pound big feeding steers, near beard types at $180.35. But the best quote that I saw anywhere on Thursday, your Macrison no BS top quote for the day, come out of Eureka Livestock Sales in Eureka, Kansas. They've got stocker demand right out the back door there, guys, in the Flint Hills. They sell 69 steers, weight 644 for $2.13 a pound. And that's your feeder flash for Friday.